Councillor Casey. I think this is a really important debate. I suppose I'm really disappointed that this didn't come to the LTP and it's just been rolled over and rolled over. It's almost like it's dropped off the radar and been forgotten. We have gone and made the rates equitable across the city, which was a big move, and I'm more than aware that perhaps the changing of no transition affects probably most of the boards that are in front of me representing today, so I'm quite aware of that. It'd be hypocritical for me to not support the First Amendment by Councillor Fletcher, because my ward, the Faux and also Mangui o Tahu, obviously has benefited through the charges being dropped 5 years ago. So there's a number of clubs that have benefited in my ward, and indeed probably there's only 4 of the fields in my area, but they're 4 of probably the largest of the 8 or 9 anyway. So the LTP ramifications, it's 1.8 million, but I think there's an understanding that will be disappearing in one form. Whether we come back with uniform charges across the region is another debate. But and clearly there will be offers, as Councillor Walker brought up the good point, officers' time will be saved on not having to administer this. So there's a little bit of saving out of the 180 that has to be found. So and then, as we had the presenter from the Ellerslie Club say to us, I mean, we are just aware that charitable dollars are dropping off, clubs are finding it harder, volunteers are dropping off, clubs are finding it harder, so we've just got to be, I believe, got to be creative here. So I'll be supporting the amendment of Councillor Fletcher's and Brewer's. Councillor Anai.
Thank you, Chair. All our sports organisations throughout the city for some time have been suffering financially. We all know that. We've been trying to find ways to resolve it. On the health issues, we have a responsibility to our young people to make sure they participate in sport. Our hospitals are suffering now with overcrowding, with people who shouldn't be there because they didn't participate in sport or we didn't encourage them to do so. And while it's a tough one for us as far as the financials of this is concerned, a cost has to be met. The reality has to weigh that up to our responsibilities to the health and prosperity of our communities, and especially our young people. We've been turning out some fantastic, phenomenal sports people out of Auckland, and will continue to do so. And I think we have a responsibility to provide those services for them to be able to springboard that and make themselves where they can go in this world. We haven't explored this, and I thought it's a good opportunity to drop it on, because this is the Finance Performance Committee, that we should explore whether it is possible to have a Auckland sports lottery of some sort that would raise funds that we can put towards the sports things that we do in Auckland, including the parks and everything else. I just want to put that on the table, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm obviously supporting Councillor Fletcher's amendment here. I have concerns about the possibility, and at the end of my dissertation, I asked for some clarification as to where the shortfall is actually going to come from. It is alarming if it's coming from the Parks and Rec budget, given just how we know, even though it was propped up at the end of the LT period, with some extra funding, we know that that is on its back legs, and to go in there seems a little unfair, particularly, Mr. Chair, when you consider that the ISMIS local board chairs were advised earlier this year, I understand, that it would be, the fees would be removed and they would be funded through organisational savings. Now, if you look at item 14, page 103 of a glowing report onto organisational savings, you will see that there is a projected increase of organisational savings of 41 million, annual efficiency savings down to 224 million. Now, I would like to think in these glowing huge amounts that I've always said are notional, but reading this, it looks like it's money in the bank, that we can get the 181,000 from there. It was never should have been up there for the... can I please have the ability to debate?
I apologise. Just querying your...
It was never up for LDI funding and should never have been, as I think Shale has alluded to, given the core business of this and just what LDI funding should be. And to think that we've spent, well, the local board chairs, the officers, Parks Division, everyone else, to think the time and money, and you look at the resolutions from each local board, they're extensive in most cases, on this 181,000 to date, is alarming. And the reality is, if we went down the LDI funding track, they'd be spending, with meetings and more advice, hundreds of thousands collectively between the affected boards on trying to work out where on earth in their LDI budgets are they going to get the 20 or 30 or 40,000 each. And so I think we need to stop digging, and I think it's a reflection of where we were with the bid debate too, where we decided not to charge the $156,000 administration fee, probably after $500,000 of putting up that proposal.
Councillor Brewer, just remember we're not talking to item 14. We're not really talking to the LDI because
no, I'm not
your
talking
amendment,
to
your
item
amendment,
14.
which you
I alluded
seconded,
to item
is possibly
14.
going to go through. So I would dig a hole.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your endorsement of the amendment in a latent sense and guiding my colleagues on its future. So look, I support that, and I think it's a lesson there that we do need to do the policy work. The fact that we've been told it was never on the policy radar, and why hasn't it come to us before? Oh, it's just coming to a head now, shows that we do need to do that work. As we did, Councillor, Mr. Chairman, with the bid decision, we decided that we would go away and work on the delivery arm of bids, and in Economic Development Committee on Tuesday we talked more about that too. So I'm very comfortable with that. It's the right way round. It should have been something that we had on the table 3 or 4 years ago. LDI funding was should never have been put up. And again, I seek clarification, Mr. Chair, as to where this 181,000 is coming from, because as you've alluded to, item 14 is possibly shows one big chest of gold coins that we could get into. It's certainly not, as Councillor Fletcher will tell you for free. It will have more pain on the Parks and Rec budget.
We can confirm that this will come from the Parks budget. Mr. Kempton is over there. If he can find money, he can switch from somewhere else, that's fine. But at the moment, it's coming from the Parks budget.
Well, Mr.
So
Chair,
be aware of that.
Can I just ask some clarification on that? If it was good enough for officers to advise earlier in the year that it was going to come from organisational savings, since then we've had a projected increase of 41 million to 224. Can't you see the press release at 3 o'clock today? It's got better. The annual efficiency savings for the organisation have got better, not worse. What has changed? Were the local board leaders poorly advised on that it was coming from organisational savings earlier in the year, or did they misread what officers were telling them?
Misread. It'll be Jane.
Well, I think that's just really part of the annual plan debate, where we're going to be discussing the efficiency savings among other things, but as will sports field charges be part of the annual debate.
Yeah. Well,
Councillor Casey.
I'm talking 15-16 here, not 16-17.
Yep, Councillor Casey.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I will be supporting Councillor Fletcher and Councillor Brewer's amendment, but I did need to put up my amendment as the pure way to do this. I spent 7 hours recently on governance training, and I think that this decision today could have been used as an example of good regional governance decision-making. There's a couple of words or phrases that haven't been used today that I will use, and one is natural justice, and the other is respect. Natural justice, like Councillor Cooper, you mentioned ad hoc decision-making. It was ad hoc decision-making by staff back in 2011 to deal to 2 local boards and leave the other 6 hanging. That was an ad hoc decision that shouldn't have happened. Natural justice, Respect. You have respectfully heard from 6 local board chairs. We had a meeting with local board chairs recently. We talked about respect. The worst I had to do was cash cow from that bad Paul up in Waiheke. You have been respectfully asked to fix something that should have been fixed a long time ago. So I really do appreciate you coming here, and I think that we need to look at that report, which isn't evidence-based. It doesn't support natural justice, and it confuses a decision about an inequitable part of our region with funding. And we've just heard an example of that complete confusion. So the way this report should have been written, and I'm sorry, but it's been signed off by the Chief Finance Officer, by the Chief Operating Officer, by yourself, Mark, but this should never, the first decision was, is this inequitable and do we fix it? And that's what my amendment is. Yes, we do. The next discussion that the Finance Committee to have is how is that funded, and it certainly shouldn't be coming from the local boards. And so how this managed to get through all that vetting and through the chair, sorry, but you would have seen this report and you had the opportunity to fix it at an earlier stage. So I'm embarrassed by this report because all that good governance I learned recently, you put at risk by this report. And so I wanted to fix it simply by saying we need to make that decision first. So I'm very happy for you to put my amendment first to fix it, and then Councillor Fletcher's, which, you know, kind of looks at into the future. But that's the one that we should be fixing. Absolutely clear in my mind. And we had this helicopter. We've had a helicopter for 7 hours. We need to be in a helicopter looking down. Well, the helicopter's been hovering over the 6 central boards. We're in it. And so it should be unanimous that we do the second amendment first and support them. They've done it right. We now do right by them.
Councillor Quacks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't realise I'd be on quite that quickly, given the interest in this. But my question really is to the amendment that Councillor Casey has put up, and what the implications of that are, because it doesn't really make it clear if the removal of the sports fields charges in the central part of the city would be ongoing, and that would be a concern. And so I'd like some clarification, because it seems to me that the amendment put up by Councillor Fletcher actually deals with both issues. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Right, thank you.
I can clarify that since it is my amendment.
Yes, you can clarify.
Obviously, the 6 boards would have to comply with any future policy of council, as they do, very generously. So it's a now, fix it. Should have been fixed back in 2011. Fix it now, and then let the future take care of itself through the wonderful responsibility and governorship of Councillor Fletcher's committee. All good.
Okay, well, I'm going to put Councillor Fletcher's and Brewer's amendment first, because that was the first one I received. So
standing orders don't make you do that. You're choosing to do that.
I am choosing to do that. So I'm going to put, and I'm assuming people want it by division, or do we just have a voice vote?
By division, everyone's.
By division, okay, rightio. We have the amendment.
This is the Fletcher amendment.
Yeah.
Which one is?
Is it NC now as well?
Aye.
Councillor Nye.
Aye.
Councillor Brewer.
Or
Councillor Casey.
Yes.
Councillor Cashmore.
Yes.
Councillor Clow.
Yes.
Councillor Cooper.
For.
Councillor Darby.
For.
Councillor Fletcher.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hulse.
Aye.
Councillor Lee.
Aye.
Councillor Penrose.
yes.
Councillor Quacks.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Member Taipari.
Aye.
Member Tamahiri. Councillor Sir John Walker.
Yes.
Councillor Wayne Walker.
Yes.
Councillor Watson. Yes. Councillor Wood.
Yes.
So that is unanimous, so I'm
It's historic, Chris.
going to take it that Councillor Casey's and Councillor Tamahiri's amendment is not necessary.
Correct.
So I'm going to move now to make that the substantive motion. Do we have a mover for that, please? Councillor Fletcher, seconded by Councillor Penrose. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? It's carried.
Thank you very much on behalf of the local boards and the central listeners. Most appreciated.
We will take a 5-minute break, 5 minutes maximum.
Very good.